G'day mate, Kramer here with another edition of Kramer's Shirtless Cooking Vlogs. Kramer Shirtless Cooking Vlog. Today we are going to make sauerkraut. Well, we're going to start the process anyway. So this is what we've got to start with. A couple of cabos. This is a specialised fermenting crock pot. Nice big bowl, good sharp knife and a chopping board. Just on the crock pot, it's not hugely necessary that you have specialised equipment. You can get by just fine with a big jar. This one has a moat around the outside there that you fill up with water, which behaves as an airlock during the process. And it's got a couple of specialised ceramic weights there that weigh down the vegetable as you ferment it, which is important, as we'll learn later. So just quickly to touch on the type of fermentation that we're doing. We're doing a lacto fermentation. So all vegetables, or I think nearly all vegetables, have a certain type of bacteria present on their surface, which starts growing in colony size as soon as you harvest it by a little bit, and as well as a lot of other microbiology in the vegetable. The bacteria that we're going to use to ferment is about 1% of the makeup of the overall microbial activity on the vegetable, so not much. And what we're going to do is create a environment for that bacteria that can readily multiply, take over, and also create an environment for itself that is not conducive to other yeasts and molds growing. And for this, it needs to be an oxygen-free environment, or anaerobic, which means underwater in our case. Okay, what we're going to do is slice up the cabbage into little ribbons. So first of all, we'll quarter it up and then take out the core and then slice her up.
Without your television, let me hear you speaking just for me.
I just realised I forgot about salt. That's really important. I like to use pink salt because it's got more minerals in it. Get already ground up stuff because you don't want to be sitting there grinding away. So we're going to basically make a brine, which is just salt and water at about 2% dilution, or concentration rather. So 2% salt to water. So what we're actually going to do, rather than making a brine out of water and salt, is just use the salt to draw the water out of the cabbage through osmosis. So what we're going to have to do is weigh our bowl, and then we can weigh our cabbage in the bowl and figure out how much salt we need to add. Alright, so we ended up with about 1300 grams of cabbage, which is about 26 grams of salt. So that's what that looks like. Not very much. Definitely bit off more than I could chew with the amount of cabbage that I've bought. So I'm gonna have to make some sort of cabbage soup, I suppose. So now you just like sort of sprinkle it over it a bit, a little bit at a time, and then what I'm going to do now is just mash it in, crush it up, really squeeze it. If you're doing this on a bigger scale, you can bash it, like use a wooden instrument or something to just really crush it in, and all you're doing is just bruising and breaking the surface of the cabbage to allow the salt to do its work, to penetrate a bit. Alright, so that's all mixed up and sort of crushed and squashed and everything. You probably can't see, but it's quite glossy now with the surface all covered in moisture that's been drawn out from the cabbage. So now what I'm going to do is transfer it all into this crock pot. Alright, so I ended up fitting all the cabbage in there in the end. I underestimated the size of my crock pot. So that's all in there now. There hasn't been enough water come out to submerge the cabbage. So what I've done is I've grabbed some water and made up a brine out of that. Same thing, 2%, and we'll just pour that in there. Ideally, you'll use water that has had the chlorine coming out of it, either by, well, the easiest way is to just leave a jug out overnight or take it out of your kettle. Preferably not too hot when you put it in there, but yeah, doing that just means it gives the fermentation a better chance of taking off. So now that's enough water in there, all we're going to do is grab our weights
contracting. I'm controlling.
Chuck our weights in there. So the number one important thing is to minimise the amount of sauerkraut floating on the top. Try to have a little bit, but you don't want big chunks of it sticking up. As much of that poked underneath as you can, because it's the stuff that's above the surface is what's going to hurt you. That's where you're going to have moulds and yeast growth. So that's pretty much it. Just chuck that lid on. I'll put a bit of water in that moat around here, and that gives it that airlock. I'm going to leave it for maybe, I don't know, 6 weeks. The longer you leave it, the sourer it gets. The sourness comes from the lactic acid that's produced by the bacteria. Well, that's about it for another Kramer's Shirtless Cooking Vlogs. I hope you've all been aroused and enjoyed the educational session we've had today. And I look forward to hearing about your sauerkraut results. See ya!